There's no two ways about it. Treatment for ADHD is essential if you want to get the best out of the rest of your life. And how lucky are we to be in a world where there are multiple treatment options available to us? We've got drug treatment, we've got therapeutic treatment, we've got coaching, we've got nutritional treatment. Today I'm going to talk to you about drug treatment, more specifically drug treatments that are available to you in the UK. So which drugs are available in the UK? What do they do? Kind of what do they feel like? And which might be best for you? Over in the UK, we've got two kind of parent systems of drugs that we use. We use stimulant drugs and we use non-stimulant drugs. Stimulant medications include drugs called methylphenidate and amphetamine. Non-stimulant medications include drugs called atomoxetine and Guanfacine. What is stimulant medication and why on earth would it be prescribed to somebody who already has a hyperactivity disorder? It seems like the last thing you want is to give that person more energy, right? It's to do with how ADHD works, what it is, and how an ADHD brain functions. And I did a basics video on that that's in the pop-out banner you can have a look at. But today we're going to look at the pharmacology of how an ADHD brain works in this scenario. So if we think about a brain, brains usually have neurons, and neurons you can think of as a matched pair that are the chemical messengers that enable us to experience a conscious life day to day. They message each other using chemicals that we call neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters, you've probably heard of a few of them. Adrenaline, everyone's heard of adrenaline. Cortisol, serotonin, and my mate and yours, good old-fashioned dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that's responsible for us feeling good and feeling rewarded when we've done something. Now, we're not entirely sure what's going on with ADHD, but it's largely accepted that an ADHD brain has a lower tonic dopamine level. That's the term we use to refer to the default amount of dopamine that's just hanging out in the brain. Now, it's lower when we look at it in comparison to a neurotypical brain. So a neurotypical experience of dopamine would be when they empty the dishwasher, they get a little dopamine hit because it's a reward for doing something that they should have done, right? But their reaction is proportional. An ADHDer might not have the same response to emptying the dishwasher, and as a result, they just never do it. Or they might have an increased reaction to doing the dishwasher, and then they haven't got any dopamine left to do anything for the rest of the day. So they might get married, and it might not be a great thing for them because they've released all their dopamine because they emptied the dishwasher. The point is that the peaks and the troughs are far greater than they are in a neurotypical brain, and this is what results in the ADHD behavior that we all know and love and observe. Treatment for ADHD, or they might have an increased result gap here called the synaptic void, cleft, doesn't matter. Hello, Guanfacine, Guanfacine. People with ADHD are constantly trying to find that dopamine release in their external environment. Stimulant medications are designed to stimulate the neurons in ways which make the concentration of dopamine in the brain higher. That raises the tonic dopamine level, and that allows people to feel a bit more ease from their ADHD symptoms and traits. Because they have that tonic dopamine level that's higher, they now don't feel the need to look for dopamine hits in their external environment. What stimulant medications exist and what's available in the UK? Well, first of all, we've got methylphenidate. Methylphenidate is known as Ritalin. Classic. What does it do? Well, it's a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It stops the neurons taking up the dopamine that's been released immediately, thus increasing the concentration in the brain because whatever's been released hasn't just been grabbed by the next neuron, which is what happens a lot in an ADHD brain because there's this kind of feast or famine approach. If the dopamine's there, grab it, keep it. What methylphenidate does is it comes in and says, hey guys, it's all cool. Like, you don't have to grab it now. You can leave it until later and it'll be there and you can take it up. And it creates a more stable dopamine experience throughout the day. Amphetamines work differently. They kind of work in the opposite way. Brand names over here are Amphexa and Elvance. As I said, they work the opposite way. So instead of coming and saying, hey guys, leave that until later, it's cool. Amphetamines come in and they encourage the other neurons to produce more dopamine. So there just is more in the solution in the brain. And so the reuptake neuron is like, hey, oh, that's cool, there's loads of dopamine, so I don't need to grab it all in one go. I can just leave it there. Both medications work to increase the tonic dopamine level in the brain. And what that does ultimately is stabilize the person's dopamine experience. Now, what are the benefits of that? Well, billions, thousands of quadrillions. ADHDers have a problem with executive function. Executive function is that kind of stuff that helps you make decisions. When you can't make decisions as a person in the world that is designed to make you make decisions all the time, it can be quite distressing. So the major benefit of starting using medications like this, when your executive function is kind of repaired, you're able to make decisions that you didn't know were a problem in the first place, and ultimately, you just feel better, man. You have more focus because you can decide to do that thing before that thing before that thing, which gives you more productivity, which means you get more done by the end of the day, which means you feel better about yourself, which means your self-esteem gets better, which means you might have a new haircut, which means you might make more friends, which might mean that you make more money, which might mean that you have a boat. You just kind of feel better. And it helps you to feel happier on a deep and holistic level. There are side effects. Super common ones include appetite suppression, change in mood, nausea, diarrhea, headaches, and vomiting. What a Saturday night that sounds like. If these things are happening more than the actual intended effect of the medication, then there's something wrong. And you need to talk to your doctor and get yourself sorted out. Change meds, change dose, whatever you need to do. I've experienced a couple of these side effects. Literally a couple, two. I've experienced a loss of appetite and I've experienced changes in mood. My experience of these side effects has been largely positive. It's unlikely to be the same for the majority of people, but it's important to me that I give you the whole truth. My appetite going down has led to me losing some weight. Losing some weight has led to me feeling better about myself. Feeling better about myself has led to a change in my mood. Overall, day-to-day, acutely, chronically, I just feel better, man. I just feel happier. Now, I've had a tough year as well. There's some sad stuff that's happened this year, really sad stuff. And I'm not immune to that. I'm just able to understand and get to grips with it and process it and deal with it in a much, much more healthy way than I ever felt I could before I was on medication. Anyway, those side effects definitely do exist. And if they are having a negative effect on your life, then please talk to your doctor. You can always change meds and you can always stop taking medication. But I would seriously recommend before you do either of those things, talk to your doctor first. It's a great shame that there are severe side effects associated with stimulant medication, overdose, death, and addiction. And I'm making an apology if I triggered you here because it triggered me when I was doing my research into this and looking at which medication might be good for me. As soon as I heard addiction, my heart jumped into my throat. And that's because I have a history of recreational drug use. Now, I'm not proud of it. I don't condone it. It's long forgotten, but it is a genuine and real part of my life experience to date. I'd be an idiot not to think that my past could influence my present. It hasn't, thankfully, because I took a good approach to it. And if you do the same, if you're sensible, if you have been triggered by the word addiction here, then the chances are you're taking a sensible approach and you're probably going to be okay. Addiction is found when you use these drugs any other way than is prescribed to you. So if you take too much or if you take too often, there is a very real chance of something going wrong. And I do not wish that for you because I have found wonderful, wonderful benefit of using these drugs. And it would be awful to think that that could be ruined just because your doctor hasn't got you the right dose or you didn't want to talk to them that week. So just be careful because they can be dangerous. Now we've had a look at the rock stars of the ADHD medication world, let's have a look at the all too important, but slightly less glamorous, kind of guitar techs of the ADHD medication world, the non-stimulant medication. So why would you need to take non-stimulant medications when stimulants have been shown to be super effective in a super large amount of people, and they largely seem to be quite safe if you use them as prescribed? Perhaps you're a person that is really worried about addiction, doesn't even want to try stimulant medication. At least you know there is an option for you here. Perhaps you have anxiety. That can be made worse with stimulant medication, of course, because of the effect it has on your central nervous system, the flight or fight thing that comes out when you take a stimulant. that can produce anxiety and it can make yours worse. It'd be good for people who are pregnant, good for people who are concerned about previous drug abuses. In any given scenario, talk to your doctor and see what they think. Non-stimulant medications available in the UK include atomoxetine and Guanfacine. That's it, got it. Atomoxetine is a selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, which is part of the antidepressant group of drugs. Now, the way that this works is it prevents your neurons from reuptaking norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is really helpful when it comes to executive function and decision making. Guanfacine is a different type of drug again. This is slightly removed from antidepressants, sometimes known as a cognition-enhancing drug or an alpha agonist. And it's not really understood why this sort of drug would help with ADHD. However, we know that it does, and we know that it's safe to use for ADHD. So what are the benefits of taking non-stimulant medications? Well, the benefits are that you're not taking stimulant medications. So if they don't agree with you for some reason, you still have this option of taking these and they're still providing you with help. The side effects of those are very similar to those of stimulant medications. Appetite suppression, depression. That's ironic considering they're supposed to be antidepressants, right? Diarrhea, nausea, headache, weight increase, vomiting. If you are experiencing side effects that are having negative impacts on your life, then you must talk to your doctor and you must sort that out. How often do you need to take either type of medicine? Well, stimulants can be taken every day if you like, or kind of as and when you fancy taking them. I wouldn't recommend that. Take them as prescribed all the time as prescribed. They have an effect immediately. Take them in the morning. Mine takes between an hour and 2 to come on, and then I can feel the effects of the drug working through the day. That'll happen the same as it did today, tomorrow. It'll happen the same as it did today in 3 weeks' time, 3 years' time, in a million days' time, whatever. That will be the same effect regardless of when I take them. That's what I mean when I say you can kind of take them whenever you like. You should take stimulants in the morning, just because if you take them over night time, there's a very high chance that you're not going to be able to sleep because your brain's stimulated. Simple. Some stimulants you can't take with food because of the way that they break down, and some you can take with food, but you need to talk to your doctor about which is which. Just bear that in mind when you're making your decision about medicines to take for your ADHD. Non-stimulant medications tend to be taken over nighttime, but you must take these every day and you will not feel a difference on them for between 2 and 6 weeks. That doesn't mean they're not working. That just means that it takes that amount of time for this chemical to build up in your system and for your brain to adjust to the chemical and what it should be doing. Some people will swear down that they feel effects of non-stimulant medication immediately. And, cool, good for you. But there is a chance that their body is just reacting to a new thing in your system, and it's not actually having an effect on your ADHD, although it might be having an effect on your life experience, or it's just good old-fashioned placebo effect. Well, come on, guys. We're in England. Let's talk about the NHS. All right. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. We wouldn't be where we are without the NHS. They have been under incredible pressure in the last 24 months, as we all know, and as we all have. I wouldn't have anything bad said against them at all. Full of wonderful people, incredible organisation. Does take between 6 and 10 months to get diagnosed with ADHD on the NHS, though. That could be better. And I'm sorry if I just threw that at you and it triggered you, because it really bothered me. I didn't blame anybody. It was just disappointing, because I'm sure that if you're watching this video and you feel like you do have ADHD, the one thing you want to do is get it sorted and actually get some clarity on it, because you know that that's the thing, and you know that it's the thing because you know the one thing that you want to do is make sure you're getting the right treatment. And when you have to wait between 6 and 10 months, wow. And when you don't really understand the passage of time in the same way that a neurotypical person does, that could feel like forever, whatever that feels like. I get it. Definitely better for kids. It's quicker for kids. And parents, I got a whole playlist of videos for you and your kids with ADHD that has all this kind of information in it. But the NHS to get diagnosed and treated for kids is much better. You've also got better support for kids in England and with charities up and down the country and with the school system, of course. Now, going privately is obviously quicker, but it will cost you to go privately, and it's not cheap. But we're talking about the drugs here, and you can be prescribed ADHD medication privately, and you can pay for it privately. It's quite expensive to do it that way. My drugs, my Elvance 30 milligrams, cost £100 for 30 tablets. That would be £100 a month. But you can blend the two approaches. You can start privately, get your diagnosis, get your treatment, and stabilize. That's the important bit, is that you stabilize. And then your psychiatrist may be prepared to move that prescription to the NHS, and then your GP may be prepared to just be a supervising GP and sign off a prescription every month so that you only pay NHS prescription charges. That might feature in your choice as to which drug's best for you. I know that lisdexamphetamine is about £100 for 30 tablets. As I go into the NHS system, it will be better, but just know that those costs are associated with it. By the way, I did a video about my whole diagnosis journey from the moment I thought I might have it until now, I guess, but it goes through the whole thing, the process that I went through, the cost, and the process that will be ongoing. So if you want to check that out, it's in the pop-out banner. Come on then, let's answer the question. Which ADHD medication is best for you? Well, I don't know, do I? It's up to you at the end of the day. And that is so important because it is up to you. It is a choice. And you can talk to your doctor frankly, openly, and adultly. You can talk to your doctor in an adult fashion about your worries on these things. They're there to help. I was so lucky, man. I really was. I got first dose, first med, straight out the gate, did everything I needed it to. I get all the benefits with relatively few downsides. It's so important that you really think about this because it can change your life for the better. You can have profound step change overnight, as I did. And I will continue to use that phrase, profound step change. That's what happened to me. And if you're still kind of worried about having to go through the process, go through the mill, trying different drugs, it might be 6 months, all this kind of stuff, I've got a cheat code for you. It's called pharmacogenetic testing. You just take a swab or a blood sample, send it to a lab, and here's the clever bit. They can tell you from your genes which drugs and side effects of particular medications and stuff you'll be most susceptible to. So you might actually have empirical gene-based evidence on which drugs might be best for you. So ask your doctor about it. As of recording this video now, I'm not sure whether that sort of thing's available on the NHS. It's probably something that you would have to pay privately for, but it's an option. Pharmacogenetic testing is what it's called. In the UK, we just don't have the same sort of approach as they do in the US. It's very much a kind of, the doctor knows best. And that's even if we get to the doctors in the first place, because so many people are still very British, well, stiff upper lip. If I can't feel it, it's not happening to me. Well, that is bullshit. And I really encourage you to start being part of this new wave where we can have decent, open, adult conversations with our doctors about what we think could work, listen to them, debate with them, and make sure we get the right treatment that suits us as individuals, not us as diseases or disorders. So, with that in mind, talk to your doctor, take your meds if you've decided which one you want to take, and have a great day.